Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you are having a good night or day, depending on time zones. As, after all, time flows differently in every part of the world. But yeah. But let's talk about this what if first, because I at least have a couple of announcements that will be done that have to do with this particular video. One, it will be using a mix of two languages, the standard English language, and since it has to do with dragons and that, I just kind of decided to go with, well, a very nerdy option of Dovazul, the language of dragons from the Elder Scrolls games. Don't worry though, I'm only using the language. None of, well, her powers will be coming from Skyrim, so she won't be using any shouts like Fusor Da. Sending people off of mountains. So yeah. Sorry for those of you who want to see a Dragonborn story, but no. I'm going Dragon Kin instead. So yeah. I'm not deciding if I want to make this, well, story connected with everyone, but it's going to be a long time before the story reaches to the point of UA for you guys anyways. So yeah. Hopefully you guys will be, well, A-okay with that, as I kind of want to make some of my what-ifs last on this particular channel. The only reason why I'm working currently on this channel more than my older one is mostly because it's new and it needs content to flourish. So yeah. Point is, if you guys don't have a problem with Dovazul, the language of dragons from Elder Scrolls, there will be a link in the description to the dragon language Wikipedia of Dovazul. As I plan on making this story quite unique from other Dragonkins. So yeah. Hopefully you guys will be alright with this what if. But yeah. Either way, let's stop wasting time and begin. As we cut to the void. As we see, well, an icy bluish dragon falling. And ever so falling through the void. No end and no beginning for it. As all the dragon can think is how selfish the race of Myr can be. How their forefathers would disown them from their own race due to how selfish the race of elf has become. as we would hear a small sigh, only for coughing to happen. As we notice something within the dragon's chest. A very large ballista bolt. A siege weapon, in a way, but one that's appeared to be remodified to take on the scales of dragons. As the dragon still remembers the face of the young man who shot him down. Such anger and fury. As all the old dragon can think is how sorry he is to make that young lad into that kind of monster. As all of a sudden, the dragon goes from feeling nothing against its membranes of its wings to feeling, well, wind caress them. As we would hear a loud thud, with the ground shaking and some snow falling off of trees. As we can see, this has pushed, well, the tip of the ballista even deeper. Now puncturing the dragon's heart. As the dragon just simply rolls over onto its side. As we can see the dragon hiss in pain even more. As the dragon simply lets out a chuckle. As he can only hope that the people of this plains are a lot more forgiving than his own. He hopes so the frost dragon race can survive, even if he can only make someone into Dragon Kin. As we cut to, well, in between, well, Canada and Alaska, in a part of forest that nobody patrols, but yet some people live in. And when I mean some people, I mean a young girl and her mother. As both came from Japan. As we can see, well, the young girl simply having her head resting at a windowsill. As we would hear the voice of a much older woman. As the young girl would turn to see, well, a woman with green hair and very kind eyes, with this woman being Inko. As Inko just shakes her head in the amusement of, well, Eris's childlessness. As Inko simply says to her daughter, Eris, if you want to go outside, you can. You just need to get all your equipment on. It gets cold in this part of, well, the world. There's a reason why we only have, well, at most a week of, well, decent light. With Eris looking outside, with the outside looking almost always pitch dark due to the height of the trees in the forest. As Eris finally makes up her mind that she's tired of, well, waiting here. That she's going to go outside and explore the forest. But not without, well, some security. As we can see Eris walk over to, well, a closet. As she opens it up, as we can see, well, a few things. As we can see, a very thick coat, some thick pants, along with, well, some boots with ice spikes on them. As Eris smiles, as she looks in the corner, as we can see, well, a hidden compartment, as she slides it open. As we see in the hidden compartment, a Remington 700 hunting rifle. Customed for the 308 round. A large round, to be sure. As we just see, well, Eris touched the gun, with her remembering, well, the times with her father, or the times that were there. How her father was always into hunting, as she would frown a little. Still remembering that her father never came home that day. And only, well, they found his rifle later, near a large splatter of blood. As that was the trouble of living in such an area of the world. The wildlife has no fear of humans here. Not like the cities. Not like the countryside. As we can see, well, Eris start getting everything on. As once she has everything on, a few moments later, we see her coming out of, well, the room with the Remington slung across her back. As Inko would look at it, as she would look at her daughter, as she would say, Eris, I don't think you really need that. It might just drag more attention to yourself with the wildlife. With Eris not really caring, as she would just simply look at her mom and put on the same smile that she always does, as she would say, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll be back home soon." As we see her putting, her hoodie up and putting on, a mask and some goggles. As we see her walk out, as Iko watches her daughter leave through the dark of the forest. With Inko letting out a sigh, as all we hear from Inko is her basically praying, saying, "Please keep my daughter safe." And help her if you can, please. As we see, Eris trudging through, knee-high snow, with the rifle now in her hands. As we can hear some howls in the distance, as all Eris can think is, wolves, great. As the ground would, shake, with Eris falling into the knee-high snow, with some snow covering her, falling off of the trees, with her quickly shaking it off, as she would look around to see what could have, made such a ruckus. As she can feel a cold breeze coming farther north of her position, with a little bit of snow hitting her from that direction as well. As Eris would quickly pick up, the rifle and run as fast as she could in the knee-high snow to the location. As about an hour later, we see Eris come close to a clearing, one of the very few clearings. A clearing with a water hole. One of the few springs around the area. Not the one that is connected to her home, though, thankfully. As you would hear, her drop her rifle. As we can see her eyes widening from, seeing what's in front of her on the other side of the spring. As she just assumed it was a large chunk of ice originally. With her now realizing that that chunk of ice is breathing, with parts of it lowering and, expanding, like a living thing. As we can hear Eris quickly fumble with picking up the rifle. As we now switch paths back to the dragon. as his eyes open up instantly after hearing, well, someone fumble with something, as he thinks that it's some kind of, well, crossbow, or some kind of weapon. He doesn't know, as he takes one good sniff of the air, as all he can think is, well, human, interesting. I'm in a snowy area. Maybe I went back in time? No. That cannot be the case. The void does not deal with time. It deals with dimensions. Well then, I guess I will use the last little bit of my strength to grant this one a wish. As the dragon does nothing but smile after thinking that. As that smile slowly faded into a frown of what their race had to do to gain this power from their, well, father. As he would sigh, trying not to remember the Dragon Wars. The war between the multiple races and species of dragons, with the only two races being left, the fire and ice, the two most powerful. Only for him to remember the backstab, that which occurred when he was nothing more than pretty much a hatchling. With him gaining all of the knowledge and power of his forefathers before him. As he would finally decide, after remembering, well, the memory, that he's old and tired and just wants to sleep now. So this new person will be his resting place. As we cut to, well, Eris, as she slowly comes into, well, the clearing, with some sweat forming, well, above her brow, as she knows as if she irritates the creature here, that she will die. And all she can wonder is if this is the thing that killed her father. As suddenly, Eris would hear, well, noises coming from the dragon, or, well, the creature in front of her, in what she can only assume is some strange language. As she's trying to remember, as her mother had a major in school when it came to, well, knowing about other languages and how they operate, as she couldn't find a match. The only thing that she could find that was even remotely close was Latin. And even then, the names sounded the words used had a bit of power pushed into them. As just this puts the Eris even more on edge. As she would hear the clearing of a large throat, as she would now be hearing, English coming from the creature. I am sorry, little one. I tend to forget that not all races know how to speak Dovazul, my language. Please, come closer. I will not harm you, young one. If anything, I would like to give you something for finding me. As Eris would oblige the dragon, but not lower her gun. As she, drops her weapon in shock, seeing, something from history. A ballista within, this large creature. As Eris's kinder side is in shock of how much pain this thing is in. As she remembers from, her history lessons with her father, of what she could remember, that ballistas were used as siege weapons. Back before, firearms and catapults came to be. As she would see the creature smile, as Eris would do something that she's never done in a long time. Shout at something. How could you be smiling? You're clearly hurt and possibly dying. How could you be happy about this? With the dragon's smile, lowering a little bit, as the dragon would speak to Eris, as he would let out a sigh, saying, everything must end at some point, little one. Nothing is forever. Even a great creature like I needs to meet my forefathers at some point. As Eris just, looks at the creature, looks down at, her rifle, as she makes a decision. She wasn't there when her father died. She can give, him comforting words. All she can see is a creature that's similar to her father, as she could tell that it had kind eyes, that there was no evil intent behind them. As Eris has always had, that type of gift with her sight, that she could tell the worth of a person just by looking at them. It was never a quirk, though, so she's still labeled quirkless. The doctors just chalked it up to good instincts. As Eris would pick up the rifle and sling it over her shoulder, as she would walk over, with the dragon closing his eyes, not knowing what this human will do, only for the dragon to be kindly surprised, as he would hear a soft voice whispering comforting words to him, as his eyes would open up in shock, as he can still smell fear from her, but at the same time, all he can sense is determination to see something through to the end. As the dragon smiles, as he speaks once more. "Young one, may I ask what your name is?" With her saying that her name is Eris Nyx. With the dragon recognizing the free characteristic lettering, similar to his own name. As he laughs a bit in his head, wondering the possibilities of where he found another person with the last name Snow. As he would speak, "Eris, I have something I would like to give you, a wish. Anything that you want, and it will be yours. With my last breath, I can grant you anything. Power, wealth, fortune, fame. With Eris just looking at him, thinking for a moment, what is it that she wants in life? As she remembers the stories of her late father, of when he was in, the armed forces. How he, saw people get mowed down for multiple wrong reasons. Him saying how the heroes were lacking in their duties. And thirdly, that she didn't have, the power to protect her father the first time around. As she still holds out hope that her father is still alive. As she lets out a sigh after thinking hard about it, as she looks at, the creature saying, "If you're not yanking my chain here, then I wish for the power to protect those that I care for, and those who need someone powerful to protect them." With The dragon simply nodding, as he simply says, "Then please, stand in front of me." As Eris would, well, do as the dragon asked of her. As before she could turn around and look the dragon in the eye, she would hear its mouth open as a breeze would cover her. A very cold breeze. A breeze far more colder than what she's been walking through. As a sharp pain goes through her head as she passes out. But before she does, she sees, well, the dragon's body slowly fading into, well, snowflakes. As he says one last thing. "Do not worry. I will be with you, always." As she would finally black out. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed this first chapter of this What If and story. This will be a part of Arc 1, Snow, as this will cover, well, Eris learning how to use her powers and just stuff like that, before we get remotely close to UA. Alright? Alright. Now I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering, I said I was going to use Dovazul, why didn't we hear any of the Dragon Tongue? Fairly simple. Dovazul will be coming later within the story in What If, with Eris being the one to use it the most. So yeah. As I said before though, hopefully you guys enjoyed the story. Don't forget to comment down below if you did. Also, if you think anybody else would like this story, and just the What If in general, please share, well, the video with other people that you think would like it. Discord servers, Reddit communities, anything is good. Anyone that you think would like the story, just send it to them. On that note though, it is time for me to, well, head off. See you guys later. Have a good night and day, judging on time zones around the world, because I am out of here.